I woke up on a cold metal bench in what looked like the center of town. I was alone, no one around me except for a row of shops with their shutters closed tight. There wasn't a single car on the empty street. It looked like a ghost town. My first thought was, how did I get here? Then, why is it so quiet? And finally, who am I? I didn't recognize myself or anything around me. I stood up and dusted off my clothes. I needed to figure out where I was and how I got there. Maybe if I could find a phone, I could call someone, anyone, and they could tell me who I was and where I was. But there were no phones anywhere. So I started walking. Just then, the bell above the door to a nearby cafe chimed, and I walked right in. A woman behind the counter looked up from her cleaning and smiled brightly. "Alex, you're awake." She gestured to a chair. "Have a seat. Your coffee will be ready soon." "Coffee? What coffee?" I shook my head. "I don't think I ordered anything." Sorry, do we know each other?" The woman's smile faltered for just a moment, but it came right back. "Of course we do. You're Alex Harris, aren't you?" Before I could respond, she turned back to what she was doing behind the counter. This is getting weirder by the second, I thought, trying to come up with any memory that might help me figure out who this woman was and why she was expecting me to order a coffee. Nothing came to mind. All I had was a nagging feeling that something very important was missing. "Alex," I heard a familiar voice say. I turned around and saw a man standing in the doorway. He was smiling at me. "Alex, it's so good to see you again. Who are you?" I asked him. He chuckled. "You don't remember me, do you? It's me, your father." I stared at him, stunned. His eyes were filled with kindness, but there was nothing familiar about his face. As far as I can remember, I never had a father. I grew up in an orphanage. All I knew was that my mother died when I was born, and according to my records, I have no father. How can he be my dad? I thought, confused and scared. The man walked over and sat down across from me. "You must be hungry," he said, reaching for my hand. "Let's go somewhere. I'll buy you some breakfast." I pulled away from him. "Stay away from me," I snapped. "I don't want anything from you." He looked hurt. "But Alex," he started, "I just want to help you. You're not well, I can tell." He stood up. "Look, I need some fresh air," I said quickly, jumping up and running outside. I had to get away from that man and this strange woman in the cafe. I needed to put some distance between us. As I walked down the street, a group of kids playing on the sidewalk spotted me, and one of them shouted, "Hey, Alex, welcome back." I stopped and looked at him, confused. "What?" I asked. He smiled. "Don't you remember? We used to play together in this very spot when we were little." "I'm sorry," I said quietly, realizing these people probably knew me when I was young. Maybe if I could figure out where I was, I could find someone who could tell me who I was. As I rounded the corner, I saw a sign that read, "Welcome to Ashton." Ashton. It sounded familiar, but I couldn't quite place it. Maybe I was close to figuring this out. I continued walking until I came across a cluster of old buildings. One of them had the words Town Hall written above the door. I pushed it open and went inside. A woman was sitting at a desk facing away from me. She turned around and smiled. "Alex, you're awake." She looked kind. "Can you help me? I don't know who I am or where I'm from. Do you know who might be able to help me?" She pointed to a stack of yearbooks on the desk. "Maybe you'll recognize yourself in one of these." I looked through the photos, but none of the faces looked familiar. Just when I was about to give up, I saw a photo of a group of kids. One of them looked exactly like me. He was standing in front of the town hall. It must have been taken in the 70s or 80s, because all the other kids were wearing clothes from that era. And he was the only one who didn't look like he belonged. Beside the photo was the caption that read, "The 1984 graduating class of Ashton Elementary School." I was stunned. I knew I hadn't always lived in this town because I wasn't in the 2000s graduating class. But if this picture was from 1984, then I was barely older than 10 years old. At that moment, a man I recognized from the cafe walked into the room. "There you are," he said, smiling. "We were getting worried you wouldn't show up." "Show up for what?" I asked. "Don't you recognize me? I'm your brother, Daniel." I shook my head. I still didn't feel like they were really my family, even though I knew they were trying to help me. I needed answers. I asked the woman at the front desk if I could look at the yearbooks from the 1970s, just to make sure. She agreed. And while I was going through them, I found another photo of a boy who looked exactly like me. The caption under the photo read, "Boy Scouts Troop 203, 1972. I looked at the woman at the desk. "Do you know who he is? Do you know who I am?" She looked away, a sad expression on her face. "Everyone here knows who you are, Alex," she said softly. "But you don't seem to remember any of it." She paused. "You've been gone a long time. I don't blame you for not recognizing us." She took a deep breath. "Where do you live now?" I asked her. "Here," she replied. "This is our home. This is where I grew up," I whispered. I didn't understand how I had no memories of living here for most of my life. I felt like something was missing, like an important part of me was erased. One of the townspeople told me there was a cemetery on the outskirts of town. They said I should go there. "It'll bring back some memories," she said with a wink. I thanked her and hurried toward the cemetery. I had a feeling that's where I would find the truth about who I was. When I got to the cemetery, I began searching for my name among the rows and rows of graves. Finally, I found it. There it was, in black and white letters, Alex Harris. I walked up to the grave and stared at the inscription. The dates on either side of my name were carved into the stone. On one side was my birth year. On the other was a date that said 2023. Today's date is 2022. So why was I dead already? Then I noticed something strange. The numbers in the year of my death were blurry, like they weren't supposed to be there. It was as if whoever had made the gravestone hadn't finished the job. My heart raced. Could I be dead? Was that why I had no memories? Was that why I didn't recognize my own family? Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. I whirled around and saw Daniel. "Why is it blurry?" I asked him, pointing at the stone. "What's that supposed to mean?" He looked down at the grave. "Oh, that," he said dismissively. "It just means you'll be joining us soon." He tried to put a comforting hand on my shoulder, but I flinched away from him. I didn't know who he was or any of the other people from this town, but somehow they all knew me like I was one of them, and they all acted like we had a close relationship. And now they were telling me I was dead. In a panic, I ran away from the cemetery and toward the town center. Maybe if I could get out of this town, I could find answers. But when I reached the main square, I realized I had been here before. This was the same square where I had woken up. I ran in circles around the square, desperate to find a way out of town, but every street led me back to the same place. I was trapped. And then I saw them. The townspeople had gathered in the square. They were smiling at me, and Daniel was right in the middle of them. "See, Alex," he said with a big grin. "You're home, but I'm dead," I whispered. They all leaned in close, their faces inches from mine, and in unison they said, "Welcome home."